Good afternoon, everybody, and Ramadan Mubarak to all those that are observing. Can I feel a little bit more energy from you all right now? Okay, one more time. Everything you have in you. I'm fasting and I'm loud. You can be loud too. Woo! Thank you all so much for having me. My name is Isra Chakar, and I am the Refugee Campaign Lead at Oxfam America. And more importantly, I'm an unapologetic Syrian-American Muslim woman. I can't believe I'm standing here in front of all of you on this historic day. I can't believe it because I never thought I would participate in, let alone witness, a festival focused on sharing the true narratives, cultures, and cuisine of refugees from all over the world. It's truly incredible. When we think about the world we are living in today, it's easy to give up hope. We are living in the worst refugee crisis of our time. 65 million people displaced across the globe, and of that number, over 22 million are refugees. The devastating part is less than 1% of refugees globally actually end up being resettled, with the chance to build a new dignified life far away from war, violence, and persecution. Last year, the Trump administration set the refugee admissions cap at 45,000 people. Think about that number. I just said that there are over 22 million refugees in the world today, and our country, the beautiful United States of America, a country where the Statue of Liberty stands as a beacon of hope and light, welcoming people to our shores, will only take in 45,000 refugees in a year. And to make matters even worse, we are not even on track to meet that number this year, by the end of this fiscal year in October. In fact, we are less than halfway of where we should be right now, meaning that by the end of this fiscal year in October, we will have resettled only 22,000 refugees, which would be the lowest number of refugees resettled in the history of our entire country. This is not who we are as America. These are not who our values are, and we cannot stand for it. Today, I'm here to remind my fellow Americans, the media, and our elected officials, especially Mr. Trump, of the human impact of these harmful policies that is never highlighted or focused on. But we are changing that here today, and it's about time. There are real lives affected by the slashing of refugee admissions numbers and the discriminatory Muslim ban that has stalled the resettlement process of thousands of refugees across the world. I want to take a moment to share a bit more about myself. I haven't seen my family in Syria since the conflict began over 7 years ago. And the Muslim ban prevents me from being reunited with them here in my home, where I was born and raised, the United States of America. They have already had to miss my graduation from my bachelor's and master's degrees. And they had to miss the moment I married the love of my life, and many other moments where families should be together. How many more life milestones will they have to miss? How much longer will I have to wait to see them? The Muslim ban has torn families apart and shattered their ability to be reunited. It is cruel and it is heartless. These policies are un-American, and we can and should do so much better. Do you know why today is such an important day for humanity? Because it gives a platform and a microphone to those directly impacted. Today, refugees are owning their own narrative. They are sharing their lives, culture, and food on their terms. Today, we hear them. We stand as allies with them to make sure they know we have their back and that we welcome them into our neighborhoods, our classrooms, and our places of work. Their courage and resilience inspires us, and we will take the stories we hear today to share with our friends, neighbors, social media networks, because that is how we dispel the stereotyping and fear-mongering spewed across the media by our elected officials every single day. Stories like Ghassan Shihata and his family, who were resettled here in Baltimore from Syria in September 2015. He fled Syria in 2012 after 2 of his brothers went missing and no one knew what happened to them. His father urged him to take his kids and his wife and leave the country. He was a successful entrepreneur in Syria, multimillionaire, was able to take his savings, thinking he's gonna come back to Syria, and left. He went to Egypt, the easiest way for him to access getting out of the country. In Egypt, he saw how awful the conditions were for refugees, how there was no access for education for his children, and how they were sitting day to day waiting for an answer for what's going to happen in their lives. He decided, like many other refugees, to take the harrowing trek across the Mediterranean and try to get to Europe. So he boarded a boat of a smuggler. Him and his family had 2 kids at the time, and they got on that boat in the middle of the night, paid them thousands of dollars to get them to Europe. Then they got caught by the Egyptian Coast Guard a couple hours after leaving shores, and they were arrested. Ghassan, his wife, and his 2 kids, younger than the age of 10, were imprisoned for 3 months, separately, in different cells. Then the United Nations heard about their case and decided that they wanted to resettle them. So they began the resettlement process, and they told them, you're coming to America. Of course, refugees don't choose where they get resettled, and Ghassan had no idea the concept of America than what he had seen in movies. So they begin the resettling process, the most stringent vetting process in the world that exists today. It includes interviews, it includes background checks from security agencies like the CIA, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, everything you can imagine. And then at the end of this process, it ends with a physical examination to make sure that their health is intact to come to the United States. So they had went through 2 years of the vetting process, and they were at that last step where they were going to have that physical examination. And they found out that Ghassan's wife was pregnant at the time. She didn't know, and that came a shock to them. But what was even more shocking was that they weren't allowed to be resettled until she gave birth, and her newborn baby had to go through the vetting process as well. And that is exactly what happened. They waited 7 more months until she gave birth in Egypt. She gave birth, and then baby Tame, whose name is Tame, had to go through the vetting process, a newborn baby. And then in that vetting process, their papers, some of them were expired, and so they had to start all over again. By the time they resettled here in Baltimore, it was 3.5 years later. That is the vetting process that we're talking about. And yet we continue to vilify these refugees that are coming from unimaginable circumstances of losing family, losing homes, to our country to just live a better, dignified life, to not have to worry about a barrel bomb coming through their building and killing their family, to not have to worry about a sniper hitting their child on their way home from school. These are the people that we're talking about. Ghassan and his family are part of the norm, not the exception. And they consider themselves extremely lucky that they were able to make it to safety and start a new life here, although the struggles of integration are a whole nother story. Today, I ask all of you to take action. Use your voice, your agency and power to advocate for change, to ensure that people like Ghassan and millions of others across the world are given the right to safe haven from these unimaginable circumstances they're fleeing. 2 things you can do to take action today. 1, as I mentioned earlier, continue to share these stories out in the world. Spread facts, not fears about refugees. Their stories will change hearts and minds. Their stories should lead to policy change, and we can lead that. Secondly, you can go over to the Oxfam table right over there under the Take Action tent and sign our petition to advocate for refugees and to our administration and to Congress that we deliver in real time. And I can't wait to work with you guys and meet you all over at that tent. Let's work together to make sure that our country doesn't slam the door on refugees. We are so much better than that. I know we are. Thank you all so much for coming here today. I appreciate you all.